when I went to Manipal in 1992, I was 108 kgs of weight. I couldn't speak a sentence straight in English, and I had very poor grades in class 12.
Took the role of Merrill as India head at 33.
We took the company from 8 crores to 32 crores in under 11 months.
Yeah.
So we were on the way to Zurich, and on a cocktail paper, we drew a rough business plan.
Yeah.
Next 2 days, all they would talk about, they gave the company a name, Involution, and the name Involution came because innovation and evolution. He says, please throw these two out and write a board that dogs and stent salespersons are not allowed. 400 crores in 5 years. Didn't that, honestly, now that I think back, my mother once told me, in Hindi of course, बेटा कोई तुम्हें ये बताए कि तुम क्या कर सकते हो वो ठीक है, किसी को कभी ये मत बताने देना तुम क्या नहीं कर सकते.
Welcome Gaurav. Thanks for coming on Healthcare Tribe podcast. The entire podcast, Healthcare Tribe podcast, what we do is, it's first of all is going to be very conversational. It's not an interview. It's what we do is we try to cover leadership stories in healthcare. Especially people who have gone through professional and personal journeys in leadership. So that's what we cover. Couple of things I definitely want to cover, and other things will be really as the flow goes. But couple of things that I have already in mind that I want to for sure cover for our viewers is one is especially the transition from a corporate world to entrepreneurial world, and how did that transition go. And then we definitely want to cover the domain of cardiology for people who are interested in cardiology, and how that business, not just cardiology, but the business of cardiology, and how does that happen? How does a manufacturing unit happen? And how does business happen in this field? What do you do today to make that? And what are your future challenges and stuff like that? So we'll cover this kind of two parts for sure. But we will start with what I understand is you are a UP lad and born in a small town in UP.
Yes.
Let's start there. So what was your kind of upbringing experiences while you were growing up? I also understand that you were one of the first biomedical engineer.
Yes.
In the country. So where did that interest come from, a UP lad, and where does that go, and how that journey happened? So quickly, if we can cover that. And
so
then
first of all, Amit, thanks a lot for having me, and congratulations on starting the Healthcare Tribe. You just robbed me of my after retirement profession. This is exactly what I was planning to do with healthcare leaders. I think today, I've always said that this, I believe, is the golden decade for medical devices in India. And I think there are a lot of interesting stories when I meet entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders in various stages of scaling up. I feel there are a lot of interesting stories that need to be told, and I'll surely send some of those along your way now. Congratulations on this. I saw your first 2 episodes, not fully, but was very impressed with the very conversational and easygoing flow. So starting with my story as a UP lad, I grew up in a family. I was a pickle in the middle. I had an elder sister and a younger sister. And my father was a very distinguished government officer. He topped the UPSC engineering exams, and then went on to become a topper in Roorkee. Was one of the youngest engineers to be inducted in irrigation department in UP. And thanks to his job, we traveled the length and breadth of rural UP. I've been raised in cities like Muradabad, Bareilly, Aligarh, Badaयूं, the bad West, Meerut, Bulandshahr. You know, so I've grown up in almost 11 cities across UP. And I unfortunately didn't inherit my father's grey cells at all. So at 15, 16 years of age, I was about 110 kgs. And because of my poor academic grades, I completed my 11th and 12th in Hindi medium. And I was failing.
Oh, really? So you did your 11th, 12th in Hindi medium?
Yes.
Wow, that's something.
So when I went to Manipal in 1992, I was 108 kgs of weight. I couldn't speak a sentence straight in English. And I had very poor grades in class 12th. So I had very little hope as a child for my father and Then I took biomedical engineering there in Manipal.
Why? Why did biomedical engineering?
Quite
Because
honestly,
that was quite a that time biomedical engineering. This was which year?
This was 1992.
92.
1992.
Right. So not much really of biomedical.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So I applied for mechanical engineering. Given my grades, I didn't get that. The
So
closest,
in a way, that poor grades helped you
oh yeah, yeah.
get into a biomedical.
So my dad was a mechanical engineer.
Right.
So he's very passionate that mera beta bhi mechanical engineer banna chahiye.
Right.
I didn't get that. So that year, Manipal started 3 streams, new streams:
Acha.
instrumentation engineering, biomedical, and printing engineering. I didn't know anything about printing and wasn't too keen a reader, so I said, this is out. Biomedical, I had no clue what it was. So I took instrumentation engineering.
Acha. Okay.
And my dad was very happy, so was I. But then came my moment of truth, as they say. Pehla exam, engineering drawing, and I flunked miserably because I can't draw a banana straight even till date. You know, as a student in 10th and 11th, I would fail because I couldn't draw cup and saucer. So that's how bad I was. My dad tried really hard, but I continued to fail engineering drawing. So dad said, look, you have 2 options. Either you continue to fail because mechanical you can't do without drawing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you choose the next best option. Next best option was biomedical engineering. Not knowing what it is, I just took that. So that was my journey.
That's how, through coincidence, that biomedical journey started.
Sheer coincidence.
And then after doing that, you were directly into any particular job. How did your career started?
Yeah, so I started in my first year. The first year is common in engineering. I had completed my first semester. And then I got a chance because somebody in biomedical engineering fell sick and he left. So I switched to biomedical engineering. And there we got exposure to medicine as well as medical devices. So we had postings in medical college. We got to see CT scans, ultrasounds, various machines. And that piqued an interest in me. Though academically I continued to flounder a little bit. But it was towards the 4th year. And being completely honest, till 3rd year also, my grades were nothing to speak about. In a class of 30, I was the 27th rank, and I had immense rank for 28th, 29th, and 30th rank students. They remain best friends till date.
That's what happened. But you managed to. You managed
Yeah,
to
I
because engineering.
wasn't failing anymore. I wasn't getting great grades either. But what happened in that journey, I got ragged a lot. I got bullied a lot.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine going to a place like Manipal, which was very westernized even back then. I was 106 kgs, couldn't speak English, was not doing too well academically. And out of that, I think insult has been the biggest motivation for me in my life, in my journey. And I lost a lot of weight. By 4th year, I was 72 kgs.
When was this change happening? That
From 92 to 95.
And was it like is generally the humiliation that happened in the college that you felt
Absolutely.
and responded to it, or
in very generous dose, I was I was subjected to.
but that was not the case when you were back home.
No. Back home, I was
In school, there was no problem in such.
So my dad, because he was a senior ranking government official, we
obviously.
were pampered a lot. For a family of 5, we always had more than 12 servants. We used to live in houses that were not in square feet, that were in acres. The largest house that I lived in was 16 acres in a 12-bedroom mansion with 14 servants. So we lived a very pampered life, honestly.
Was it in those times? I always had to ask this, and now it struck me. Was it in those days that you got this habit of being very well dressed? Because I've never seen you shabbily dressed in my life till now.
Also utter humiliation. In college, I was ragged for being obese. I was ragged for being dark.
Yeah.
I was ragged for not being able to speak English. I was ragged for just being a no-gooder. I mean, there was nothing. I was,
and they couldn't relate to you.
Yeah, nobody could relate to me. And these were kids from DPS and fancy schools across the country. So I started running. I got motivated by a lot of insult, and I started to run, and I managed to lose over 35 kgs running and gymming.
Wow.
So 3 years of my college life, after 5 o'clock, all I did was run 7 kilometers every single day and spend next 2 hours in gym. So I don't know much of what college fun is like till the 4th year. I was just running and I was working on myself. And then in third year, I started reading the dictionary front page to the back. Every single word. And I still have a diary which is about 200 pages thick. Every word that I couldn't understand, most of them I couldn't, I would write them down, their meaning. And then I started reading India Today front page to back page. And then I started seeing how those words were used in conversation. And I started bringing them into my conversation. And in final year, in 8th semester, I actually won an elocution contest in English.
Can't believe
pitted against students from DPS. So
yeah, when you talk today, it's very difficult to imagine that there was a day where you couldn't speak English in life, was, right? I mean, you couldn't really feel at all from an accent. So that was that 3 years he used really to get fit.
Yes.
As well as good in English.
Yes. So I used that to sort of sculpt myself in many ways. And then in my 8th semester, I got a distinction. And there was only one company that came to campus interview. They chose 3 students, topper of the class, 3rd rank holder, and 27th rank holder, which was me. So it was just sheer coincidence. But then after that, I never.
But what helped you to get there? Generally, what worked in that interview? Is it your story of change?
It was just the smarts. You know, I mean, there was one company and college had an institutionalized process that if a student hadn't gotten first year throughout all the 8 semesters, they weren't allowed to sit for the pre-placement talk. And here were just 30 of us, the first batch. So only 9 students made the cut. 21 couldn't. So those 21s were smarter than the 9. We found out where the managers of the recruiting company were staying. We went there, caught them, greased the palms of the receptionist, found their hotel room number, found when they're coming for dinner, and we said, so we are students from Biomedical, and you know, because of a stringent criteria, 21 students haven't made
it. In the majority.
You allow us to appear in the written test if you are no good. We'll anyway flunk it. And they agreed. And that's where once I cleared the written test, I knew that in the other rounds I'll make the cut. I did.
Super. But we'll spend a minute on this. This very interesting part is a lot of us get humiliated in life.
Yes.
Right. A lot of us get for different reasons, for being in places where people are not able to relate to you and stuff. But all of us are not able to convert that into a discipline to make a change.
Yes.
What do you think helped you? Or what would be a couple of things that people should do that?
I think one of the things that really helped me was a very solid emotional support system from my family. So I grew up in a very, very happy family environment. I had a very happy childhood. To give you an example, I was the only brother for 17 sisters, you know, cousins.
Oh, really?
Oh,
My
yes.
gosh.
Oh, yes. And I was the apple of their eye, 108 kg apple, but still the apple of their eye. And I grew up in a very loving environment. And when I told them about my struggles, they just said, do what it takes. You know, and I think at some point in time, I realized that I can't be in this place and not belong here.
Right.
You know, I stick out like a sore thumb right now. And I looked around and I said, look, I need to belong here. Right. And if I don't do it for myself, nobody else will do it.
Yeah.
So I did it and I'm glad I did.
Absolutely.
Because those ethics have remained with me till today.
Yeah, I know. I read somewhere that you still run marathons and you were running marathons for 50 cities. Now we know why it started and where it started. But that's probably the ethic that you carry still and you still run. Is that right? Yeah,
it is right. And another incident that honestly, now that I think back, my mother once told me, in Hindi of course, she said, बेटा कोई तुम्हें ये बताए कि तुम क्या कर सकते हो वो ठीक है, किसी को कभी ये मत बताने देना तुम क्या नहीं कर सकते. So she said that never let anybody tell you what you can't do. Let people tell you what you can do.
Absolutely.
So I said, my goodness, this is very powerful. And people used to always tell me, अरे यार biomedical engineering, Sharma ji, Verma ji, Gupta ji in UP सबसे ये कौन सा engineering है? But my dad supported me and he said, I trust every single thing you do. So I think it was just that love and support that helped me transform myself.
That. Yeah, super. So and then where did you start your job?
So I started my first job in a company called Dornier, a company called Healthcare actually. So they used to distribute lithotripters. So lithotripsy is a very expensive equipment It has a bellow, and that is used to fracture kidney stones,
Right.
non-invasively. So my first task was to be an application specialist for this. And given my limited engineering skills, there was a conference in Bombay Hospital. They had launched a laser for prostate surgery. And as luck would have it, the number one urologist in the country is operating on it. I was sent as a service engineer. They didn't know I didn't know anything. They thought he's a biomedical engineer. And the laser didn't power on.
Oops.
And the doctor was unhinged. He went absolutely nuts, and I understand. And I had no clue. I had been given no training. So during those days,
There's no one in the company to support you.
No.
Like,
The guy
you were
who was supposed to travel with me missed his train of flight. I don't remember something. I was all by myself. I think 2 months into my job. And then I went to the ICU. I was locked up in the ICU. There used to be a telephone. I made a call to my office. The service engineer would explain a few steps to me. I would come back and do them. And then after half an hour, finally the machine started to work. They could complete the procedure. But I decided I'm not great behind machines. I am much better off in front of people. So that was the last application job I did, and I switched to sales within Dolly.
Okay.
And
So they kind of changed your role. They were okay with.
Yeah. They said that given this disaster, you clearly are not great behind machines. You come in front of humans, and I switched to sales.
Oh, wonderful. And how was that journey?
It was very nice. I was looking after all of North India, based out of Hyderabad. So I would go on tours which were 40 days long, and there's a lot of learning. In 1996, I was selling a machine which was 1 crore. It was really expensive. And I ended up selling the first machine in a place in a very, very small town of Rajasthan. And that is
For the same company.
For the same company. For the same company. And Sri Ganganagar was the name of the place. So nobody could imagine that a 1 crore equipment is not getting sold in Mumbai, not in Delhi, not in Chennai, in Sri Ganganagar. So that is where I got a lot of accolades and a lot of confidence that I could do it.
Right. And so then how did that journey, when did you move to, I know that you've worked in big MNCs like Abbott as well as then Merrill. So how did that journny happen?
Another very interesting incident. I was very happy doing what I was doing.
Right.
And we had a corporate office in Delhi. So a corporate hotel in Delhi. So I was traveling. My boss was traveling with me, and my boss had an interview with 3M. So he said, "Gaurav, why don't you come along? You're anyway." It was a Saturday. He said, "It's a Saturday. There's no work. You've come up."
So your boss is having an interview somewhere else. He has taken you in that interview.
Yeah.
Some boss, man.
Some boss, and he was from GE.
Oops.
I'll not name him. He was a very amazing man. So he takes me to this interview, and we are in Lee Meridian lobby. He said, "Gaurav, I'm taking you to a 5-star hotel. I'd never seen one." So that was my motivation.
Oh, you hadn't till then? This was which age?
This was I was 25. Sorry.
But you had not seen
I'd never seen the inside of a 5-star
hotel.
Yeah. Okay. So I said, "Wow, this is."
Yeah. By the way, anyway, those days 5-star was kind of rare.
So it was an incentive for me to accompany him. I was sitting in the lobby, and he said, "Today's coffee is on me." So I was happily sipping cold coffee, just soaking the ambience of the 5-star. And then my boss comes down with a very handsome, tall-looking man, and he says, "Who's this young guy?" So my boss tells him that this guy is from Manipal. "Where are you from?" I said, "Sir, I'm from Manipal." He says, "I'm from Manipal this year." And the conversation started. He said, "You mind coming up to my room?" He took me up to his room, and he really liked what he saw of me in 15 minutes. I got the job, my boss got rejected.
Oh God, that's...
Honest story, this is how I got the 3M job. I had no intention. And my salary was 2.5 times. I had no idea why they were paying me so much. Why they selected me, my boss got rejected. I'm still not great friends with my boss because of that. But true story, this is how it happened.
But you knew of 3M as
I
a
knew
big
of 3M,
company,
of course.
and so you're excited to get into something like that. And of course, 2x salary in those days. So that's the 3M journey started.
That was a 3M journey, and then I was a sales rep based out of Delhi, again looking after North India. 3M was a brilliant company, very employee-centric and great culture. I made some friends who I work with today, in that journey, 2 years. And 2 years later, my boss from 3M went to a company called Guidant, the same gentleman who hired me to 3M. And he called me and he said, look, I have a job for you. I was 26 then. And he said, I just got married, and he said, I need you to move to Chennai for me to Guidant.
Where were you?
I was in Delhi. I was a proper North Indian lad. Never stepped that side of the...
Comfortable in a way.
Never stepped that side of the Vindhyas except for my education in Manipal, which I enjoyed. I said, why should I do that? Why should I come to Chennai? I mean...
Yeah, and also, to an extent, it would be fair to say that 3M is a big company. Guidant is good, but not necessarily as big. So why should I come?
I said, I love you. You've been a great boss, but Chennai, I've just got married. My whole family is in Delhi. He said, what if I give you the biggest opportunity that an individual gets in his career? And I said, that's what? He said, you're an individual contributor last 2.5 years. I'll make you the youngest supervisor at Guidant.
Ooh.
And that struck a chord with me.
Right.
He said, you come, I will create a position of a supervisor for you. Guidant didn't have a position of a supervisor. It was called, what was it called? It was called territory manager. So he said, I'll make you a territory manager. He created that position for me. And he offered me a salary that I couldn't refuse. I was drawing 3.5 lakhs at 3M. And he made me
an offer. 96.
96. He made me an offer of 8 lakhs.
Wow.
So one day he just sent me...
In 96, that's an amazing salary.
I got a letter and my wife just couldn't believe. She said, I'm sure you've blackmailed your boss. Why is he paying you this kind of money?
What you know of him that...
Said, I have no idea. Maybe he really wants me there. And we went to Chennai. And that's where my journey with Guidant began. Started making a lot of money and was a very successful stint. My first reportee, incidentally, was a 42-year-old man. I was 26 years, he was 42 years.
God.
And that was the first leadership challenge that I had.
Exactly.
First 3 months, he wouldn't accept me. And I had no clue why am I managing him. He is already 8-9 years into the company. But I think that is where I understood the first lesson of leadership, that it's ultimately about being a good human being first. I started talking to him. He started coming to my house for meals. And then I could slowly mold him to do what...
How did you? Because this is something I have gone through as well. And I remember talking to one of my mentors, and he was my manager as well. He went through it, and we always used to talk about what are the things we do so that we break that ice between this, right? Because this initial period is very awkward.
Very awkward.
Right? Of leading someone who has much more experience than you, and it becomes but it's very crucial member as well of the team. Yes. It becomes very, very dicey.
Very interesting question, because in 3M I was doing surgical dressings, tapes, largely into the disposable side of the devices. And here there were high-end stents. Stents used to sell for 1.5 lakh rupees a unit that time. And every single stent used to get tracked. My life was suddenly like I moved from a very normal state life into the celebrity zone, because stents were at the top of the medical device
at that point of time, especially, even to a great extent till very recently. But that time you were dealing with cardiologists.
Interventional cardiologists who you could count on your fingers in 96. I joined Guidant in 99. Even then you could count cardiologists on your fingertips, and we had great training. And I realized that I couldn't implement my training because, one, I was new to this market. I was new to this region. I didn't know South India as well. And there were language barriers. Yeah,
Chennai is very strong, especially at that time. Very strong language.
Chennai had a very strong language barrier for a North Indian. And I had a 42-year-old Tamilian man reporting to me. So I knew that first I had to win his trust. That I'm not here to take his job. I'm only here to help him. And after 3 months, I invited home for dinner. He came. We became friends. Then I went to his house, much against his wish, almost imposed myself. And then we started building conversations. I said, look, I'm here. I'm not leaving. You're here. You've done well. I can help you do better. And slowly we started.
You said, exactly like this? Like
Yeah,
in the
I
sense-
told him because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I was a 26-year-old who was very restless to get success. And I told him, look, I'm not going anywhere. You can ignore me, you can love me, you can hate me, but you can't ignore me.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Exactly.
I'm in this office, you and I. It's a very small office, 120 square feet. Only space for two people. So
okay.
you're seated face to face. So slowly I started building my relationships, and then he started seeing the value that I could bring. Started bringing in processes, systems, and then my journey with Guidant was an 11-year-long journey.
Wow.
I continued to grow. Then I became area business manager for Tamil Nadu, Kerala, became regional manager for South India, was given Sri Lanka, was given Bangladesh, Nepal, was given East India. And then
did the boss also, the same person was there in Guidant for that
he
long?
continued to move on, and he, in his highest role, became the marketing manager Asia Pacific.
In Guidant itself. So he was
Which became Abbott then. He became the marketing manager Asia
When
Pacific
Abbott,
in Abbott.
right.
Abbott acquired Guidant.
Guidant, yes, of course.
So, and then I continued to grow along, and even in Abbott, I was first the regional manager. Then in my highest role in 2009, I was the marketing manager Asia Pacific, the youngest marketing manager Asia Pacific in Abbott. And then in 2010, I got a call from somebody who I deeply respect that here is the role for heading an Indian startup called Merrill.
Merrill.
I didn't know Merrill at that time. Merrill had just acquired another company called IVT, Intravascular Therapeutics, headed by a gentleman called Mr. Qasim, who's fondly even today known as the father of cardiology in India.
India, yeah.
Because he brought Bard and cardiology to India. He got the likes of Dr. Matthew and some other very, very big names trained. And he was deeply regarded. And I was 33 at that time, and they said, you have to fill in the boots of Mr. Qasim. We were very
But how did this happen? A little more on that.
So Merrill had just acquired IVT.
Yeah.
IVT was a distribution organization.
And they came to know you mostly like random. They didn't knew you as such.
No, they didn't know me, but somebody who was working for Merrill had worked with me in Boston Scientific. And he said, here's this very sharp guy. He has risen through the ranks. And my Abbott business, I had scaled up from zero to almost $35 million in a span of 6-7 years. And I'd built very strong, formidable teams. So he said, I wasn't interested because it was a distribution company. IVT was a distribution company at that time. But he said, you come to Merrill Vapi and you see the size and scale and the vision, and then take a decision. I said, okay, and in my life,
fair enough.
I've never said never. I said, okay, let me give it a chance. I'll always have the opportunity to say no, right? But let me at least go and see what they've built. Largely because of this guy who I respected a lot. A gentleman called Tarak Butch, by the way. So I went and met a guy called Shahid Bilakia. Shahid, I was 33, 34. Shahid was 25.
Oh, wow.
I met him at the lounge in Leela, Mumbai. And I was accosted by a very bright gentleman called Sanjeev Bhatt. And the introduction was, hi, I'm Sanjeev Bhatt. This is Mr. Tarak Butch, who you already know. And I do this. This is my introduction. And this is Shahid Bilakia. He just goes by his name. Okay. And then they started telling me the story of what they had built. Merrill was Microlife, Micro Inks, and they were a very successful. And then this young boy started talking to me. And initially you have this apprehension, right? That you're 33, 34, you've seen the world, and here's this young boy. What will he tell me? But when he started speaking, first thing that I noticed for a multi-millionaire, the humility that he had. He served me water. He got up, made me tea, gave it in my hand. So those are first things that you anyway like about a human, right? And then he started saying, Gauravji, this is why we want you to come lead the company. We have a vision for the future. And you've seen where Merrill is today. That time they were a spent force because Qasimji was willing to relinquish control. Merrill wanted to gain control. Very sticky shoes to fill. I said, Shahid, what is it that inspires your confidence in me? He says, your journey. and we enter Vapi, dusty streets of Vapi, very old city. My wife's saying, where the hell have you got us? Why are we here? And suddenly there's this large gate and it opens and it's a kingdom inside. Suddenly you have paved concrete roads, cobbled roads like Paris. On one hand, you have a pond with lotus. You have swans swimming in them. There's a driveway of about half a kilometer. You pass a golf course on the way. And there's this big white palatial tower in the backdrop of a hill. This is part of Vapi, state-of-the-art hospitality. My son there was a movie theater of 28 recliners. My son was on a recliner watching his favorite cartoons. My wife had a Swedish massier. All of this, and after that I had no option to say no.
It's difficult to say no.
I had tremendous family pressure to say yes. And not only for that reason, I think I saw the vision that they had through interaction with the promoters. And this was another lesson for me. Before that, I had 3 things that I had said I'll never do. I said I'll never have an arranged marriage, I'll never live in Mumbai, and I'll never start a business. I ended up doing all 3.
All 3. So you now have to say that I will never become a billionaire.
I will never become a billionaire.
You will now. So let's go back to that point, right? This is a very interesting point, and I've kind of faced some of it in my life as well. So when you're moving from a very well set corporate kind of career, and this one, it is a job and it is corporate, but it's in a startup.
Oh yes.
Right? Whatever said and done, there is a big shift.
There is.
In a way that couple of things are chalo ye kaise chalega startup, but that's just one thing. More important thing is you're moving from a manager corporate kind of structure to a founder driven structure. Yahan pe if you are, the entire equation is that if with the owner, if it doesn't match, it just doesn't happen. Then nothing happens. While in our corporate structure, even if it doesn't work with manager, you always have some alternate paths and careers within the framework and structure, right? Did that thought cross you, or what were your reactions to your inner talk? If those thoughts, what were the inner challenges you went through in that? What was the dilemmas that you went through?
So I tell you that the decision to start a business wasn't entirely my own, honestly.
Not the business start. I'm saying take the position from Merrill.
Yeah.
While you were taking we will come to the business part. That's even more interesting. But I'm saying while you took the role of Merrill as India head at 33, what were the dilemmas in your mind? Because that was first big shift according to me.
I think it was part destiny. I think God was leading me in a direction where I was destined to start a business. That's all I'd say. But one thing that I'd like to say, I've never met a more dedicated, humble, and grounded set of promoters than I met at Merrill. Extremely committed. Once they dig their heels, they just don't go back.
So the promoters impressed you. So that gave you the confidence.
Amazing, and I'll tell you their intent to get me on board. I was speaking to Zakir Bhai, who was sort of the scion of the family. I may get the numbers wrong, but they were sitting on a war chest of about 1,200 crores at that time. Interventional cardiology had just a few startup companies like Vascular Concepts at that time. Sejanand was just getting started. But they were nowhere in the scale. A 1,200 crore company back then wanting to come to cardiology. And they went to great lengths to tell me about their plan. So much so that at 12:30 in the night, while my family was in their guest house, they got the HR manager to type an offer letter, got me to sign it at 12:30. That showed the intent, that how much they valued me as a professional. And while that was a huge responsibility on my shoulder, I accepted it.
Yeah. Did that thought cross that I'm 33, will I be able to do this?
Never.
too big a role?
Never.
That didn't.
No.
So you are confident that you'll take this through.
So I've always erred on the side of overconfidence. Never been accused of underconfidence.
That's great. And then Merrill journey started.
Merrill journey started, was perhaps the most satisfying journey of my career till then. Now, of course, Involution is. But we took the company from 8 crores to 32 crores in under 11 months.
Wow. What worked?
What worked was the team. So I had 16 members reporting to me in Abbott. I pulled out 11 of them.
Oh,
So literally entire Abbott walked away from there to Merrill, and because I had the comfort of working with these individuals, and
yeah. So you became the Shahid for them, kind of.
in some sort of a way,
Yeah.
but credit to Merrill promoters, they gave us a very enabling environment. They trusted my leadership, they trusted my judgment, made some very big investments, and I think that bore fruit.
And how long you stayed in Merrill?
Just a year,
And then you moved.
then we moved.
Why? What happened?
Another interesting story, we were at PCR. I had joined them in November and March of 2010, May of 2010. We were on a train. My managers had gone with me to PCR to attend PCR, which is the largest cardiology trade show in Paris. And after Paris, we decided to take a 2-day break in Zurich.
Yeah.
So we were on the way to Zurich. We had a very successful meeting, and we were all drinking a lot of wine actually on the train to Zurich. And one of the managers said, "Boss, we brought Merrill from 8 crores to 20 crores. By that time, in 5 months, we had grown the business nearly 2.5 times. Why don't we do this for ourselves?" Now,
The manager said.
one of the managers said, who was
Okay.
with me in Abbott.
So it was not like you were not saying
I
that.
had no idea. I had this cross. Till that time, I had already done 2 things that I'd said I'd never do. I had an arranged marriage with my wife. Fortunately so. I'm very happy. And second, I'd moved to Mumbai for Merrill. Merrill said, "Boss, ये role तो मुंबई में ही है."
हाँ.
So I said, "मुझे हीरानंदानी में इतना बड़ा घर चाहिए." Sridevi was my neighbor. They agreed to all my tantrums, and I moved to Mumbai. Now the third I'll never do was left business, and that got sealed on that train.
Then-
Another 3 managers, we were 5 of us. One of them is Atul Sharma, who's still the co-founder and director. He says, "Gaurav, let's do it." I think Merrill has given us the confidence. Now we've seen that an Indian company can do this, and there is no company that has a pan-India presence in interventional cardiology. Under your leadership, we can create that. And after a few more wines, they convinced me. I said, "Okay, what's the business plan?" And on a cocktail paper, we drew a rough business plan. There was a company called Orbis Niche. Merrill had actually sent me to PCR to say that, "Gauravji, now all the products that we'll sell will be our own. We'll not distribute anymore. Just say no to Orbis Niche, that we'll stop selling their balloons."
No, sorry, come again. You say no to Orbis?
So Merrill was actually IVT, and IVT had distribution products. One
Right.
of the products was a balloon called Sapphire,
Right.
which was a great balloon, but underserved. And Orbis Niche was the name of the company that used to make that balloon called Sapphire, Netherlands-based company.
Right.
So in that PCR, just before that PCR, I was given a directive. There was a board meeting at Merrill, and they decided that from now on, we will only sell products that we produce.
Okay.
We will stop all distribution products.
We want to become a manufacturing company, period.
Exactly. They wanted to make the shift from being a distribution company to a manufacturing company. Orbis Niche's agreement with Merrill was ending in October. So they asked me to give them a notice that in May, from October, we will discontinue being your distributor. You can look for another distributor. We came back to Paris, and the company that was the master distributor called ACP, I met the head of that company. And I said, "Look, I'm representing Merrill. I'm telling you that we are no longer going to distribute Merrill after October." So, "Oh, that's sad news, but you know, Gaurav, who my ideal distributor would be," and this is again, this was a 75-year-old man, very fond of me. We were having wine again in Paris, and he said, "You know who my ideal distributor would be? If you were to start a company, that would be the ideal
It
distributor."
happened after this discussion on the train?
2 days after that. went back to Paris.
Sometimes it's just
destiny.
it just comes together.
And I went back to my room. We didn't sleep all night. Till 5 a.m. we were making business plan. Orbis Niche was doing 3 crores in sales at that point in time, annually. And that was enough to get a company started. There was
3 crore.
3 crores a year.
Nice.
He said in the first year, 3 crores.
You had a base to
even
cover
35% gross margin. It'll get us above water. We can start the company. I made a business plan and we decided July we resigned.
How many people were there?
6.
6 of you came together to start
6
this.
of us.
Right?
So in July we came back and we resigned, and Merrill promoters, specifically Shahid, told me that you're going to take this whole bunch with you that you brought and this will completely collapse the company. I request you to stay back till November. So I did stay back till November with the whole team, because till date I have the deepest regard for that family.
Right.
And in November we had a very, very amicable separation. I gave them as many replacements as I could for myself, my managers. And in 2010 November the journey started.
Wow, wonderful. Tell me one thing, right? This is amazing actually. Retrospectively, and there cannot be, it's very difficult to have a right answer for this, by the way. But retrospectively, when you look at it, do you think that it would have been possible to take this decision on your own?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I was very clear.
This whole support system of having 5 people engaged in this was made it easier to kind of do that, right?
Yes.
In the sense?
I mean, every leader needs a solid emotional support system. And in my case, it's very true. When I made the first transformation from a fat, ugly, illiterate boy to who I am today, it was my family's emotional support and the strength that I got from that.
But still, that was driven completely by you. You got the support.
Yes.
But here it was like co-created, isn't it?
Yeah, but to some extent, I think they were just so absorbed by that idea in that train journey that it just consumed them. Next 2 days, all they would talk about, they gave the company a name, Involution, and the name Involution came because innovation and evolution.
Evolution, it's wonderful.
And they said, we'll get a unique web address. They were consumed by that whole process, and they were like children in a candy store. Exactly. Just so excited. And I said, look, as a leader, I brought them from Abbott to Merrill. And today, if this is what excites them and they have confidence in me,
why not?
I will lead them again. And that's how Involution started.
And this is the key moment, really, I want to zoom in, is when you transit from this, the dilemmas that at least some of it that I had, but obviously each one will have different ones, is, okay, what is, what do I do? What do I serve? How much is the business? The dilemmas of financial difference, backup, family support, changes that you will go through of this, right? All those come in.
Yeah.
What was your mind said that, and what were the ways you convinced yourself to do something like that?
So it was honestly a very risky proposition. Exactly. I was doing extremely well, as I said, at Merrill. I was living in Hiranandani. Boni Kapoor was my neighbor. Exactly. My apartment was 2,500 square feet in Hiranandani.
Wow.
I had a company-driven automatic car. I had 2 drivers to my disposal.
Yeah, and that happened very fast for you anyways.
Very fast.
Right? I mean, age. 33, before that you were a corporate employee, and suddenly you are here almost treated like the biggest guy in the company, red carpet.
My son's education was taken care of. I was very comfortable and I was enjoying growing the company, working with the promoters. But the team below me had started sensing blood. They had started sensing, if we can do it for Merrill, we'll do it for ourselves. And I think that drove me, honestly, to start Involution. And we put in our own money. We put in about 2.5 crores of capital to start the company, which is
6 people together?
6 people together.
So you had savings, fortunately, made out of?
Yeah, some people put in 60, I put in 60 lakhs, somebody else put in 60 lakhs, somebody put in 40 lakhs, but everybody had equal stake. Somebody who put in 15 lakhs also had same stake as me, because I was very sure that the foundation of this company needs to be built on equality. I said, because the trust in me is just so much that if I take a lion's share, at some point in time, this company will face a very rare dilemma of inequality. And
This is unbelievably wise.
Yes.
Not many. How did that happen? How did that? Was it more emotional because you
Not
started?
really emotional. I have, even till date, for me, money is a means to an end.
Yeah.
I'm extremely spendthrift. And if not for my wife, I would have gone bankrupt at least 3 times in my life. So, not very attached to money as an object itself.
Right.
Money as an object to give happiness, yes. So, it was purely that. I said, look, all of us need to be treated equal. And that is what attracted them. I said, there is going to be a hierarchy of decision making. Because I'm going to lead it, there can't be 2 captains of the ship. Everybody agree. But in
When we
terms
share
of
the-
equity, we'll all be equals.
That's, I
And
think,
that
one of
has-
the wisest thing to do.
That has worked like a charm till date. You know, while there is a hierarchy of decision making, but each one of us, and I somewhat like to think of myself as first among equals, really.
Super.
Yeah.
Super. I think that's very,
Yeah.
very important. So tell me a little more on the first 3 years. What were some of the ups and downs? What went through your mind, as well as on the hardcore, of course, business and numbers, but what are the things that went through your mind? Like, for example, I made, as I was saying, right, I made this shift recently. I'm still in the very early stage of moving from a corporate world to a entrepreneurial world. And there are days when I wake up and say, why
Kya
the
kar liya
hell
maine?
I'm doing this? Am I really doing this right? Am I being unreal? Am I being, not getting something in terms of understanding that this can be disastrous? And there are, in the same day in the afternoon, I'm so excited because of certain conversations that happen in the business. So in one day, there are times when my mood is like goes to a peak and goes down in a day, yeah? Not like a week type.
I can so relate to that, Amit.
Did you go through something like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I had my own PMS moments at the start of the business, and it's absolutely natural. I'll tell you something that one of the things a very wise friend of mine once said to me, and it's remained with me till date, is that night is at its darkest when it's the crack of dawn is the nearest.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of times
Nice.
in our deepest moments of darkness, we tend to give up when light is just around the corner. And I'm an eternal optimist. You know, so 2 things I didn't allow to creep in. One is self-doubt, and second is a plan B. I think plan B is the biggest enemy of plan A.
Yeah, you think so?
I definitely think so. I mean, I've never had a plan B in my life. If today Involution goes belly up, I'll be on the streets. Simple and straight. I have no plan B.
But in terms of within that different paths and possibilities, you would experiment a lot, or not
That
really?
also,
You
if
didn't
look
have
at-
to.
If you look at our journey of Involution, and I'm fortunate that I have 3 co-founders who are very alike in their thought process. You know, we have a very strict moral compass for doing, and I'm not trying to sound like a moral science teacher, but nobody in the industry today can point a finger and say that Involution has done anything unfair with us. Our vendors, our customers, our employees, our partners, shareholders, and we've had lots of them. Not one person, and I can proudly say I sleep extremely well at night.
Right. That
So
helps.
this is a value ecosystem, the ethos that we have in the organization. Could our growth have been more phenomenal had we taken some shortcuts? Maybe. Are we a lot at peace today?
Yeah. You would have set at many risks as well.
And you know, a boss of mine once told me, Gaurav, that whenever you're stuck in a decision dilemma, think of this. If what decision you took today were to splash
On newspaper tomorrow.
in newspapers
Someone
tomorrow,
told
would
me
you
that.
have a red face with your family?
Yeah.
Is the red face test? If yes, chances are decision is wrong. If not, go ahead and do it. Don't care about the society.
Yeah.
I follow that till date. That if a decision that I take every day in my life, if it were to splash in newspapers tomorrow, will it make my wife, my son, my father, my sisters proud?
Yeah.
If not, I wouldn't do it.
Perfect. And so in this, were there financial insecure moments in the first 2 years?
Oh, massive.
How did you deal that?
And I'll tell you without divulging too much detail, my Form 16 in the year 2010 from Merrill just got matched in 2022. It took me 12 years
12
to get
years
back
to
to
get
the
back
same
to that?
salary.
Really?
Yeah. Honest
Really?
fact. Honest fact.
Wow, that's quite a patience.
Honest fact.
Wow, then you've increased my patience actually. I was like,
I'm not
oh,
known
man,
for my
when is this?
But the journey was so phenomenal. My partners were so phenomenal. The team that we built was so phenomenal. When we were under the deepest stress is when we'd have the most fun. You know, we would laugh over our failures. We would laugh over our misery. And I think that's what, in fact, to some extent, I feel after we've become successful, I think I've started enjoying a little less. I was a lot more fun.
Burden of success.
And it's self-reflection. But I think I was a lot more fun 2 years ago when we were beginning to do well. But today that we are very successful, we've done well, scaled up, I'm not having as much fun.
Yeah.
I need to change that about myself.
No, I can get that. This is big transition.
Yeah. But there's just a lot happening in the company right now. Good things.
Yeah. And so as one of the critical things I'm getting from this is the fact that you had co-founders with you. Probably also one of the reasons why that journey became more enjoyable.
100%.
Otherwise, it would have been very lonely to
100%.
keep at it.
And I'll give you a story, Amit, because you relate to it and you say that there are days when your mood goes through these tidal waves, right? Ashwini and I, when we were in Abbott, and this was just the way a large multinational operates, we would not see any customer who does less than 20 angioplasties a month, because that was not Abbott's focus area. Some distributor would cover them, and Abbott had that brand name. Ashwini and I, when we started our business, my co-founder, and Ashwini was in a national role, I was in a regional role, Asia Pacific role. We went to meet a customer, I'll not name who, and this was a customer, small customer in South Delhi, and we were made to wait for 5 hours. First, as just out of an Abbott, people would take appointment for you, the doctor would wait for you, and you were used to that kind of treatment. After 5 hours of waiting, we met this doctor, and I presented my card. Ashwini presented his card, said we were from Abbott and we started this company. Okay, good. He said, sir, we've launched a stent. He said, get up. I just said, we've launched a stent. He said, get up. He rang a bell. He had a bell on his table. He rang that bell. A doorman came. And he asked me and Ashwini to get up. So obviously, he's a cardiologist. We got up. He says, please throw these two out and write a board that dogs and stent salespersons are not allowed.
Seriously?
Honest fact.
He was a cardiologist?
He's a cardiologist. And he said, throw these two men out and write outside my cabin. Maybe he was in a foul mood.
Yeah.
And stents had become very competitive by then.
Yeah.
That night, Ashwini and I had the largest amount of alcohol in our lives. What the hell have we gotten ourselves into? We were treated like demigods in Abbott.
Exactly.
And now...
I can relate so much. In GE and Philips, I'm treated like, and now you have to really, sometimes you have to go through.
And then we realized that success was Gaurav plus Abbott is equal to success.
Yeah.
When you take that large umbrella of Abbott away,
True.
Success has a very different equation.
Absolutely.
And we built that success brick by brick over the last 14 years.
That's phenomenal.
Took us a lot of time. But we went through those hoops where we had existential crisis. We didn't know where we'd pay the next month's salary. We had the biggest existential crisis during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Our salary bill was 2.5 crores a month. And suddenly our sales from 25 crores dropped to zero. You have zero income. And nobody is sitting on 12-15 crores of cash in the bank.
Yeah.
And then we did what it took, but proud to say that not a single job was lost. Every employee was paid 100% salary within 2020. So
how did you manage that?
We got into COVID supplies. Very quickly we pivoted into... because no angioplasties were happening, no cath labs were being sold.
Oh, so it was not that you just increased debt, you actually found
tons of debt also.
Tons of debt as well,
and
but
I'd
found
like
ways
to tell you, because you're starting this journey, that I'm a millionaire in debt today.
Debt is good. Yeah.
I mean,
sometimes you use that. Yeah.
I'm always the cheapest option, honestly, but there is a limit to what you can take. Of course. Mm-hmm. It can singe a company.
Exactly.
Our internal discipline has been 3 times our EBITDA. Our debt should not exceed 3x EBITDA.
Oh, fair enough.
But all the promoters, every single asset we owe is pledged.
Oh, really?
Every single asset.
That's
So
risky.
it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of risk. It's a gut-wrenching journey. But if I were to do it all over again, I'd start early.
That's true. But what kept you doing this in those moments? One is co-founder, I think. I'm sure you got said that. Anything else that really
I
helped
think,
that people can take away?
All
from?
of us. And for me,
Because you could have got a very good job any day.
any day, yes. Even today.
You had age on your side. You had, still have basically the entire background. Like, I know I can get a job any day,
Right.
Which can feed the stuff. At least
Yes,
that level,
exactly,
right?
100%.
But in those moments, you didn't think about, oh, that's am I really right or wrong? And co-founders to an extent helped you, I'm sure, to
They do,
say.
and
But
I'm so
what
glad
else
that
really went?
we share the same value system and ethos. But a thing about me personally, in moments of crisis, I get immense clarity. When I'm under the most duress and stress is when I'm at my productive best.
And when you say clarity, you mean in terms of what you really want in life, or
Yeah.
clarity in terms of what you need to do?
See, Amit, you're doing this podcast with me today. Okay, this is a job, right? But work is what is getting done.
Yes.
What is getting done is establishing your place as one of the most seasoned podcast holders for the healthcare industry, leaders, etc. And this is something that I realized, that job is what you do and work is what gets
Yes,
done.
done.
So at the work that gets done always at Involution is lives get saved.
Yes.
It's not another business.
So you could see that through.
It's not selling soaps. It's not selling, with all due respect, it's not selling chips. It's not building a code. It's saving lives. And
Right.
when you're in the business of saving lives, you can't be desensitized.
Yeah.
And today I see myself as the chief patron of 600 families. That's my role. And if I'm not discharging that right, then everything else that I do just doesn't add up.
No, super.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most interesting part that I find personally as well in Involution journey is Cath Lab.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Because that's a different bait.
Yes.
Yes, it's cardiology.
Yes.
But you really scaled the tech game.
Yeah.
I'm not taking away anything from stent from a tech perspective.
Absolutely.
But Cath has a different role altogether, Capex. How did you build that? And if I get you right, the way I've sensed you in all our meetings, you're a people leader, sales, business person.
Yes.
Not necessarily a person
Not-
who wakes up from a tech perspective
No.
and say, oh, I want to build a tech journey.
No.
But you moved the tech needle and build a Cath lab. Where did it come from and how did you do that?
So we started the joint venture company because the company in its first avatar existed as Alpha X-Ray, which brought India's first cath lab into the country. They were very successful. The company got sold to Philips
Yes.
in 2008. And in 2015, after completing their non-compete with Philips, they started looking for opportunities to come back into the Indian market. They met all the big boys, Translumina, Sehjanand, Merrill, and then somebody, a common friend, suggested, why don't you meet Gaurav? And chance journey, one of the promoters was in Germany. He was exiting Mumbai and I was entering Mumbai. We met at the Mumbai Terminal 1 Starbucks. 30 minutes of journey, and he said, Gaurav, if I work in India, I'll only work with you. And I said, Vikram, if I build a cath lab, it'll only be with you. And there was an instant connect. I think there was a value system match, there was a vision match, and we inked a joint venture, and 2017, I personally came from Delhi to Bangalore to lead this journey, not knowing anything about cath lab. Till then, cath lab was a way for us to get stents.
Yeah.
I did not know regulatory. I did not know production. I did not.
Yeah, to make it is, to just sell it is one thing.
Yes.
But to make it is something else in terms of making it in India, especially.
But I think it's that innate restlessness inside me, which in some senses defined how Involution Cath journey looks today. When I took over the reins of the company, the conventional wisdom was that Philips Siemens GE would launch a model and product life cycle was 7 to 8 years. FD 20, 10 saal, FD 10, 15 saal.
Yeah.
Azure in 3, 8, 10 saal. And I had learned segmentation in my stent journey.
Yes.
Same stent, different brand, and that strategy worked brilliantly. And I brought the same strategy into the Cath side. And my engineers thought I had gone nuts. I was the wrong person to lead it. But I said, no, this is exactly what we'll do. We will go to the last mile and ensure that we deliver Cath labs. So today we have a Cath lab starting at 1.3 crores and a Cath lab starting at 3.5 crores, and we are building a Cath lab that will be 5 crores. Every 25-30 lakh rupees step, we have a Cath lab. And that's how we found favor with almost all segments of the market.
Perfect. And you started at that value market, which was
Yes.
which was probably not so well addressed by the biggies.
Yeah, we were the only game in town pretty much after Allengers, which was sub 2 crores. And the financial viability of a 4-5 crore Cath's ecosystem is very hard to establish in a tier 3 city.
True.
We saw a huge opportunity and a social responsibility there. We said that we will start building our value from the bottom of the pile. We started with tier 3 cities, Dhula, Satara, Sangli, Miraj. We started with Maharashtra mainly.
So you started this in 2017, right?
2018,
2018
the commercial
kind
journey
of.
started.
So 2018, how big was Involution from? And till then you were selling
2018,
stent
we were a 40 crore company.
2018, you were a 40 crore company, and that was mostly from stents and balloons.
Only stents and balloons.
And that was mostly distribution or manufacturing as well.
No, only distribution.
Only distribution.
This was our first
So this is
manufacturing
distribution revenue of 40 crores. This is very different than what you are today, actually.
Yes.
But we'll go there. So 40 crore distribution
40 crore to
company,
400 crores in 5 years.
5 years, and distribution to manufacturing company.
100% distribution to 90% manufacturing.
Now you manufacture
Everything we sell, almost everything.
almost everything.
Yes.
Even stents and stuff like that.
Stents and balloons.
Perfect. And so this scale that happened, right, is another story point really.
Yes.
How did that happen? Because now you are a different animal, right?
Yes.
I mean, your role as a leader especially has changed.
Yes.
It is not about that entrepreneurial stuff, but it is also about building and managing larger teams and making them towards an org. And how did that happen? Taking funding and all of that. Right?
Yeah, it's been a very stimulating journey. Last 5 years, 2018, when we started getting recognition and success early on in our manufacturing journey, we decided in 2020, especially post-COVID, that we'll pivot completely from being a distributor to a manufacturer.
Any specific experiences or just as a normal journey?
We just saw our brand grow so phenomenally. I could see our managers, our people's, the confidence in their gait was just very different. Their overall perception about the company internally and externally with all stakeholders was growing. And we said, this is the journey that we want to be a part of. And by that time, I think once you're out of existential crisis, you start thinking, it's Maslow's theory of hierarchy, right? I started thinking and we started thinking towards, now what do we owe a responsibility towards? And then in 2021, we decided that we will now start to actually do what we began the company for, democratize cardiovascular care. Every year, 6 million Indians die because of cardiovascular care. 6 million.
One of the highest, I think.
The highest number, the highest cause of death. In COVID, for 2 years, we lost 500,000 Indians, and it changed the way country operates. We lose 12 times that number every single year. So, very, very proud to say that our solutions today touch over 1 million lives every year. Our Cath labs, there are 23 cities where we are the only Cath lab. People don't have to rush 300 kilometers to get an angioplasty. Yeah. And
and a lot of those, it would be fair to say that a lot of those Cath labs are at a place where otherwise wouldn't have been. Exactly. Because you made them affordable, and especially the value segment that you started.
So brand building journey began from there, a manufacturing journey began from there. In some sense, our leadership journey began from there. Yeah. And today, our stents, in February of 2023, we were a non-significant player. We were doing 800 stents a month. In March of 2025, we ended at 10,000 stents. So we've scaled that business 12x in under 2 years.
How much would be the market?
The market today is approximately 1.5 million stents.
1.5 million stents
1.5 million stents.
for a year, annual market.
Yes.
And you're
So we
doing
do
annually about
100,000 stents out of a 1 lakh stents out of 15 lakh stent market from being an
Nice.
insignificant player.
Yeah.
So we've scaled that business also rather rapidly. And now the next leg of the journey is to take our solutions made in India for the world.
World.
Take them from India.
And I'll come to that. That's again a very exciting. So Cath labs. I'll go back to Cath labs. So now you are selling. So out of your overall business, how much would be Cath lab approximately?
So Cath lab is about 55% of our revenue.
So it's become very big part of your
and
business,
devices
right?
is 45%.
5%. So almost equal. Cath lab journey is, there are very few players. There are hardly anyone in India who does a Cath lab. It's a market dominated by Fortune 50 kind of people who started like this real big brand. India was always being waiting, not just for Cath lab, but any capex equipment for a make in India. Today there is a lot happening around make in India as well. So you are sitting in a sweet, at the same time very responsible time of suddenly do you feel the burden like make in India today? There are very few people who would come, like people, I do a lot of work in make in India and people say, "Kaun hai bhai, make in India mein kaun hai?" And your name, I always take the first one because of my, I know, I mean, I've analyzed the market. There are very few players who are as big as you in make in India today, and especially because of your Cath lab, right?
I think there is a whole new tribe
Coming up is make in India, right?
of medtechpreneurs, as I'd call them, that are in the making. I know I can count at least 10 to 12 of them who will scale to size. The challenge,
So you see this real, make in India becoming really big thing.
Oh yes, 100%. I think the whole geopolitical shift that is happening from some of our neighbors, the policy environment, the enabling policy environment in India, and also India's position as a future economic leader in the world. And the fact that some of the device companies like Merrill, Sejanan, they have paved the way for India to be taken seriously on the global stage. So we've had the good fortune that there are two leaders in the industry. Today, if you go to a global cardiology trade show, I'm so proud that Indian flag is hoisted in the largest booths in those shows.
Yeah.
Merrill has sometimes a booth larger than Abbott. Sejanand is rubbing.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Sejanand is rubbing shoulders with Boston Scientific. You know, Translumina is beginning to get there.
Would their India market share be higher than Abbott and the others of the world?
Sejanand is almost the same market share as Abbott in stents.
So they have arrived completely.
They've arrived. And they have, earlier, people knew that India makes very high quality cardiac devices, but now they have invested significant amount of money in generating large body of clinical evidence to prove it. Today there is clinical evidence to prove that Indian stents are second to none. You know, I think that paved the way for India to be taken seriously at the global stage. Right. So we're benefiting from some of that.
And we are hoping you do the same with Cath lab, because in the capex world,
it's not been done.
Still is not, to be honest. Still it is.
It's a long journey.
It's a long journey. It's a difficult one, right?
It's an arduous journey, very capital intensive journey. But I'm sure with the support of our team and enabling policy infrastructure from the government, we'll crack that code.
Yeah, because you are the only one in the capex one. Of course, Allengers to an extent, they are definitely
a lot of respect for them. I think what they've done on the Siam side.
Siam side, exactly. They've done on the Siam
They've gone global, and I think between us and Allengers, we have a huge responsibility to make this medical equipment shine on the global stage.
Because that's the reputation actually hinges currently, at least on these two firms, as far as I'm concerned.
There are few
from an imaging world.
Within the imaging world. On the imaging world, dedicated imaging world, I think Allengers and us
are the ones that I can see.
We are the flag bearers of.
We've reached a size. Of course, more will emerge. Some will get a great trajectory. But yeah, so Cath lab, what's next at Involution? So you've reached this. Cath lab is what now? You sell almost.
We sold 170 Cath labs last year. But we shipped 130, and we recognize revenue when we ship.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So by unit market share, last year, I'm proud to tell you that we are the largest single new Cath lab unit seller in the country, ahead of Philips.
Really?
Yes. So
Oh, that's big.
yes. So
Congratulations, that's big.
Yeah. So while on ARB data, Philips appears bigger because they have
More installed base,
refurbished
of
units.
course.
No.
Oh, refurbished, of
Yeah.
course.
So if you take out the Allura series, the FD10, FD20 series, we are 9 units bigger than Philips last year.
Oh,
So we're
That's
the
nice.
market leader last year in India, and we are hoping to translate that success outside India in the coming years.
Well, yeah. So one of the things that I see next is, of course, going to multiple countries. Right. What else is in your mind right now that can be revealed to an extent about the future of?
Yes, so-
what is the next 5 years that you really want to?
So what
You will never do so that it happens.
we'll never become a unicorn. But I think we are pivoting now. This is the third stage. First
Yeah.
stage was pivoting from a distribution to a manufacturing company, and this is the stage when we are pivoting from being a 3 product company, stents, balloons, and cath labs, to a 32 product company this year.
So you are really going NPI way.
Yes. So we are launching about 18 new products this year and another 16 new products next year.
That sounds unreal. 18 products in a year.
Yes.
What are some of those like?
So right now we are present in the imaging segment and the interventional cardiology segment. We are launching specialty stents as a segment. We are launching specialty balloons, including drug-eluting balloons, ultra-high pressure balloons, covered stent grafts. We have already launched a range of accessories. We've launched an entire range of neurovascular solutions, basically for hemorrhagic stroke in association with MicroPort. That's an OEM partnership. From October, they'll become a component supplier and we'll sell under Involution brand. Ischemic and hemorrhagic stroke already launched. We are getting into intravascular imaging this year, IVUS and OCT. We are launching both of them before June this year. We are getting into structural heart. We are building a full portfolio of
So you're going the device way much deeper.
Yes. Then we are on the Cath imaging side. We are building one of the world's first C-arm with cone beam CT capabilities.
Super.
At a price that will hopefully disrupt, because we feel that's a missing clinical need.
Yes.
Unmet clinical need. We are building DSS system. We are building a 3D rotational angiography system. All of this to be launched this year.
Wow, that's huge. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. What are the biggest challenges you see?
Well, some of the challenges that I still see is fractured supply chains, lack of availability of a component ecosystem in the country. It's changing, but I think it needs to change at a faster pace. I see raising of tariff barriers across the globe. As of today, America raising tariff barriers on Indian imports is not going to bite us, but at some point in time,
It will.
as companies scale up, America is the largest market for any product. That'll be something very, very detrimental to Indian business. And those are just some of the challenges that I honestly foresee. But I think over the next 5 to 6 years, with at least half a dozen new medical device parks coming, government identifying medical devices as a priority area, I still remain very optimistic and bullish about this sector in India.
And what would be some of the critical success factors? I know you are eternal optimist, so those things probably don't occur to you, but still, if you're pushed in the corner to think about what are some internal critical success factors that you will kind of need to prepare for to make something like this possible, what would that be?
I think availability of a very highly technically skilled workforce. We fortunately, being based in Bangalore, have access to that. Today, we are building cutting edge AI-driven solutions that are changing the way prognosis can be done, that are reducing dose, X-ray dose, that are reducing contrast consumption, that are going to use much lower dose for much higher output. Those are some of the cutting edge solutions that we're building. On the mechanical engineering side, we have received the Holy Trilogy of Design Awards, the first company in the world to receive Red Dot Design Award, Good Design Award from Japan, and IF Design Award. There's no other company, cath lab company, that has all three. So we have very strong design, industrial design capabilities, now matched by very strong software capabilities. And I think as we advance, we want to be a complete cardiovascular and imaging care company. We are also now getting into vascular care. So we see ourselves emerging as the most diversified solution provider in vascular and imaging solutions.
And what would be the most personal leadership challenge that you think it will be now that you will probably would want to work on as you because this is like a stage shifting for you as well. What would you say those would be?
I think the promoters are executive directors with very, very deep operational roles. I see ourselves moving to strategic roles and bringing in professional talent that perhaps is far qualified or better suited than us to lead the company into the next generation of its growth.
How easy it will be to let go the operational?
For an Indian promoter, it's always difficult to let go of control. But I think most successful companies in India have pivoted to a model where promoters take a non-executive position and let professionals sort of run the company.
You see yourself doing that?
Absolutely.
Super. Great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been such a freewheeling conversation. We've not had water. Really enjoyed my candid chat with you.
Same here. It was amazing. It was just phenomenal to know your journey and.
Thank you, boss.